Well, and this is something that I was talking about with someone earlier today was that we're getting past the point of people being nice. We're getting past the point of like, hey, like social distancing, this is what we're doing, like da da da. And it was a mandate, like it was like a direct order from like the government, you must social distance. But like they didn't, it was kind of like, and like everyone's like, oh yeah, let's all pitch in, let's all do our part, and like, and it was really good. But now, like we're like 2 months in now, and now people aren't like that niceness is not, it's wearing off.
Mm-hmm.
So like now, and I think the Galveston County, they've now said that you must wear a mask outside, like
Actually,
100.
they said that in Harris County as
Oh, that's
well.
what it was.
And yeah, I think if anyone over the age of 10 years old has to have a face mask if they're in public.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I
Those are.
mean, well, I guess that's not insane. What's insane is what's going to happen is it, because, like I said before, it was like just people doing it, because like just trying to do their part. But
Right.
now it's like I know, like I don't want to wear my mask anymore when I go to the store because like I'm tired of wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still doing it because like that's what you have to do. So like the next question is like, oh, I'm not going to wear my mask. What are you going to do? Arrest me?
Right. Well, and that's what kids do at school. See, when it's something they want to do, they do it. But then it's the same thing. As soon as you say, this is the rule, this is the law, then they say, well, what if I don't do it?
Yeah. What's the consequences
Mm-hmm.
of that? Well, and like, well, the consequences is that the entire country like gets sick.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that what were we talking about earlier today? I was like half asleep on the couch when you called. We had
I
we
don't
had a
remember.
conversation for like an hour, and it was like,
You had a
oh,
conversation with me for an hour and you were asleep?
dog, I be asleep all the time. But no, it was about what might happen to our district, like in August, about how there's like might be rotations or something
Yeah, and
with kids.
I wish I had like some really good um like concrete quotes on this, but I heard through the grapevine that basically districts around the state of Texas are preparing to consider not going back, with a normal school start, and then, maybe having a delayed start, or I don't know what that means, or maybe starting just online learning. And then, even if they do go back physically, it would be a matter of, and I have, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but they're saying, basically like, you would come to school for a while and then have an extended time where you quarantine and then maybe come back after that time's over. So I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't think anybody knows what's going on right now. So I think we have to just be prepared.
Well, what's crazy is that like I know that when we got to this online learning thing and we had our first meeting after the first week, the administration was shocked they were shocked by a few things. One, that the majority of kids logged on one day, got all of their work done, so that way they didn't have to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were also shocked that the majority of kids were logging on at weird hours of the day, like from 4 to 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. to like 4 a.m. and like this stuff, which I think is a whole nother discussion about the strain that puts on a teacher, because like we're told that we need to be available between like 9 and noon and like 1 and 3 or something like that. But and like how can we be available for them when the students aren't even awake yet? But I think it really opened up those older administration's eyes that uh, there's a lot of time that's wasted in school. Like, and I think everyone's starting to realize like just how much time is actually wasted during a school day.
Well, from an administrative side of things, I know that I've gotten, in the past 3 weeks, I've probably gotten 3 months of work done by being at home, which is a good thing. But it's kind of like you said, even on an administrative side, And I mean, granted, I've pulled some hours. I've been, because I'm a nighttime person anyway. So I stay up late and work just because that's what I would prefer to do. Um, but I mean, projects that I thought were going to take me 3 months, I got them done in 3 weeks, which is a good thing going on right now. But it does kind of make you reevaluate and say, why was it going to take me 3 months to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm thinking about in terms of like these meetings that we have because I handling things pretty well. Like we have a meeting every single day, every single morning. Some it's kind of up to the discretion of whoever the leader is. Like some of them are at 7:30, some of them are at 8. Mine's at 7. Um, and although those meetings are really fast and they're only like 10 minutes, but it's like my direct line to administration if I ever have a question on something, so that way I don't have to type an email. Like if something happens to me, like or something happened to me today, like there's no reason, unless it was like a pressing matter, like there's no reason for me to call up my principal or send them an email or whatever, because like they're worried about school's not starting anymore or their school's not coming back in session. I can just wait until my next morning meeting and then ask my question or whatever. um but I know that my those meetings that we do, one, they're super fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is very, very quick and easy to the point. And one of the things that I've noticed, like, because we have a meeting every Monday, and then we break off into our groups every single day, every morning. And one thing I've noticed is that there's a lot more contribution in those meetings now, because there's no more awkward social moments of where like you feel like you have to wait for someone to stop talking before you like raise your hand or whatever, because we have that chat box. So like if someone wants to say something or has a question right then, they immediately tap it in the chat box, and whoever's speaking like either answers it or they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a really good point. Let's let Susan like talk about that." I mean, what do you think about that? Like
Yeah.
that we're more efficient with stuff.
No, for sure. And I mean, in a way, it's kind of sad, but like us being apart has brought us more close together than we've ever been. Because, like you're saying, like on a normal school week, you don't necessarily have access to administration. I mean, unless you schedule an appointment. But now, because we are having to be apart, we've been intentional about getting together, and I think that there's a lot to be said about that. And if and when school does come back to quote unquote normal, then I think we can really reflect on that and remember how important it was to keep the connection going. And there's really no reason that we couldn't keep it going digitally, because even though we might be in school, why can't you have that 10-minute meeting where everybody's in their room before kids get there, and we all jump on and say, hey, here's what we got going on today. Are there any questions? Have a great day. And just making that contact, and that's just a part of the morning routine on the campus. So, for administrators, I would maybe say that's a pretty valuable suggestion to take back with you, to keep that line of communication open. Because every school I've ever been at and everywhere I've ever taught, the biggest complaint is there's no communication. No one ever talks to us. No, we never know what's going on. So, I mean, now we're put in a situation where we have to know what's going on, because we can't take it for granted that the wheels are going to just turn on their own. So, we've figured out a way to keep ourselves in the loop. And so now more than ever, we need to learn from those lessons. And if we can go back to a place where we do connect on a daily basis, then let's keep the loop spinning.
Well, and what's crazy, because like I can't tell you how many faculty meetings that were like, because like in the past, like when things were normal, like pre COVID-19, we would have one faculty meeting a month, and then if it didn't coincide with upper administration, then we would call like a special faculty meeting where they would come down. And I can't tell you how many times we called a special faculty meeting for upper administration for them to cancel on us like 30 minutes before. So like how easy would it be for a superintendent to literally address the entire district, or to have a meeting with an entire campus through Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, and not have to worry about it because they don't have to get in their car to drive to the campus.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're lucky they can literally walk over, but still,
Yeah.
you know, like the I think there is a amount of efficiency, but I also think there's something to be said with, and this is the double-edged sword. I think that there's something to be said with the fact that there's no kids around to quote unquote bother us. I know that we're teachers, but in some level, like I know it doesn't matter. It didn't matter how early I would get to the school. There was always a kid in my office or always a kid by the door, by the band hall, ready to talk my ear off. One, either they actually had a question, their instrument was broken, they needed help with a math assignment and they felt comfortable to come to me, or they just wanted to chat because they thought I was a cool person. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like over here like, man, like if I don't get these grades in, like you're not going to have a report card,
Right.
you know? So I think that there's something to be said to that, but at the same time, the flip side of that is that a lot of teachers have children of their own.
Right.
So maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe that's not a factor. You have kids. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as awesome as it is that they can come up here to your office to like give you something. Does that something that like does that distract you, or is it just as bad as like when you were a band director and like kids were coming in and out of the office?
Um, well, no, because I only have 3 kids instead of 150. So that right there is a big difference.
All right.
If I had 150, I wouldn't know what to do, like the old woman who lived in the shoe, you know. So, so I mean, there's that. But kind of thinking about what you were saying is there is something about when your superintendent does come in person to your campus to address your staff.
That's
I mean,
true.
that's a different setting. It's a different level of intimacy that I think is needed. And I think right now, when people are forced to be apart, those are the things that we miss. Those are the things that we crave the most. Like, I wish I could stay after school one day for a faculty meeting to hear them talk, just because at least I know we'd all be there together. I know a lot of teachers feel that way. And, I know you and there's a lot of people like us that are like, hey, this working from home thing is awesome. Like I'm able to kind of have my own schedule and get things done and be efficient. And, it opens up a lot of opportunities. But at the same time, I think for everyone, probably there comes a point where that you need a break from that. I'm just sitting in front of my computer screen all day getting it done, to where you go, I need to be able to be around people. And, I think that tolerance level is different for everyone personally. And, I mean, for me, I do have 3 kids. I have a wife. I live next door to my family. And so I have quite a bit of interaction. Whereas I know a lot of people maybe don't have that interaction right now. And then, for some people, their work family, they're closer to them than they are their real family or their neighbors or whatever. So, there's just so many individual scenarios here that I think at the end of the day, the experience that we all can share is we all need connection. And it just, different people are going to find that void sooner than others. And so, I mean, for some people, 1 week into this, they can't take it anymore. They need that interaction and they're not able to get it. Whereas some people are like, I could go 2 more months and I'd feel good. But there's going to come that point where the excitement or the newness or the just the uncertainty of it all, it kind of loses its flair and people crave routine. So
Yeah. No, I think there's something to be said to that because I think one of the reasons why like I've kind of thrived is because like I'm an extracurricular person. I'm a band director in Texas, no less. So it's like I'm having more social interaction right now. This I would have like in a normal like marching season or like being a normal teacher. You know,
right.
I don't feel like I have to be on 100% of the time because I have 300 kids around me all the time and like whatever. But I do know that like when June hits, because like right now like it just feels normal because like this is the normal amount I'm supposed to like communicate anyway. But in June when the normalicity, I don't know if that's a
No,
word,
it's normalcy, but that's okay.
normalcy.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but I'm a teacher. I teach children.
But you don't
The
teach
normalcy
grammar.
of it because of June is that I go out, I hang out with friends, I go to the beach, like I do, like I do social things. So I think although it hasn't fully hit me like whatever. Because I also like I'm the guy that'll leave on his lunch break to go get a Subway sandwich and eat it alone in my car and just listen to music because like I'm away from everybody,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I think, but again, that's my routine, like you said, of a normal day of I'm always craving that alone time when I'm teaching, and now I have an abundance of it. So what's it going to be like in June or July when like the normalcy of what I'm supposed to expect is going out and hanging out and doing things. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, you don't think we're going back in August, do you?
I don't. I mean, it's just my opinion. I could definitely see that we don't. I just think there's so many factors, but I mean, I'm no doctor, I'm no scientist, and I'm certainly not a politician. So, I don't know, but I will not be surprised if we do not. And I think that it would be wise of educators right now to plan. You're going to have two plans, and I think both of those plans are equally important, and you can't make one more important than the other. Either we don't go back, and I think if we don't go back yet and we start online education again in August, online education is going to have to look different in August than it does right now. Because most districts, and maybe there's some anomalies, maybe there's some people, that are in a much different boat, but from what I can tell, most people are trying to survive through this right now to figure out, we've got the kids, we're keeping our connections with them, we're trying to give them a routine, and we're giving them some activities to do to keep them engaged and to keep them encouraged, right? But if we look at this for the long haul, that's not going to get them where they need to be educationally. So we're going to have to change what we're doing. And I mean, how do we change that? I don't know. I think that's what everybody's trying to figure out right now. So I think that's one plan you have to have is if we continue online education, what does it really need to look like to be effective? And I know that there are some districts who, they have effective online education programs, that's an option for students in their district. I know that
like Canvas and things like that.
Well, not even that. Like there are, like a lot of schools have like an early college program or they have a bilingual program. There are some schools that have like a virtual program where they have kids that actually do virtual school, and that is the way it works. We don't have that in our district currently. I think it'd be smart for us to start thinking along those lines because that's the world we're living in right now. So I think that is one plan of action, and I think a second and equally important plan of action that you have to have is some sort of plan that if we do come back to school, what does school look like now? Because as much as it may be the same amount of time, this was not a summer break. Okay, this was not a summer break mentally. It wasn't one emotionally. It wasn't one physically. And the situation that we are going to be getting back into in August, if we were to return back to whatever is considered normal and we could physically meet in large groups and do school, school is not going to look the same because we're going to have kids in different economic situations. We're going to have kids. I mean, I heard today that there are some students in our district that they are leaving our district right now to go to another state to live with grandparents because mom is a single mom and she can't take care of them all right now. She's got 3 kids and she just can't do it by herself and work. So the kids have to go somewhere. So until further notice, they're moving to another state to live with grandparents until things get back to normal. And I mean, when you look at that, like, gosh, that's a situation, and that's what those kids are dealing with. And that's just one story. So, kids are going to come back in different economic situations. They're going to come back different emotional situations. They're going to come back. I mean, you're going to have some kids that haven't been around friends in 4 or 5 months. We're going to have to reteach social skills. I mean, that's something we were trying to do anyways. So
yeah, because no one has social and emotional skills.
Right. So I mean, how do we come back and interact? And then, there's just so many factors, and so you're gonna have to have some sort of plan to get you back into what might be a normal school situation. But I don't think that it can be the same one. And I think it would be a very bad idea on educators' parts to pretend like nothing happened and just come back to school and keep doing what we've always done. And hey, that's over, that's in the past, and it's August, so let's hit the ground running and do what we do in August. I don't think kids are going to respond the way that you want them to. And I don't think staff is going to respond. I think that there has to be some real conversations amongst educators as to how do we handle this. And, somebody may say, well, what do we do? And my answer to that is, I don't know yet. I've never lived through a pandemic. So I think that's part of what we're trying to do is just get people to think and get them asking questions. Because when we start to think together and we ask questions that are hard, we can start to come up with answers.
Well, and like another thing, well, that's because that's how we handle like disasters. Because like a normal disaster, like I'm just thinking about like when Hurricane Ike came,
Right.
like we were out of school for, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks.
Right.
I don't think that we were out much longer than 2 weeks. It might have been 3, but I really, really do not think it was. And but the difference there was is that like a storm comes, it destroys, and it leaves, and then then we're worried about, oh, we got to get the power back on, this, that. Like I remember coming back from evacuating, coming back in, like I went and hung out with friends that night.
Mm-hmm.
Like because there was nothing to do. There was no electricity. There was no TV. I mean, we had plenty of food and rations or whatever. So we just kind of like hung out in the backyard and like had a little barbecue or whatever. Like the social aspect was still there. And even though we lost 2 weeks of school, it was just 2 weeks out of the grand scheme of the entire year. So we were able to come back, hit the ground running, and then, like it was what it is, But this is different. This isn't just like something came like destroyed like a few buildings. This is like, it's like a storm that just stays.
Right.
And it's like it's constantly destroying because it's constantly ending things.
Well, and
what I mean?
yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, right now students and teachers are going to face this reality that if we were to go back in August, if we do, okay, if we physically go back in August, we will have just encountered the longest separation from an organized, structured school that any teacher or student has probably ever known in their life. Because at most you have the summer, which is, maybe 3 months. It's not a total of 3 months, but it's about 3 months. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you think about the amount of restructuring that it takes after those 3 months off to be able to get kids to come in, learn routines, establish procedures. I mean, it takes you almost 6 weeks of school.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about kids coming into kindergarten per se. I'm talking about juniors and seniors in high school. I'm talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that have been in school. They know how school works, but yet it still takes you a good 4 to 6 weeks to really get them acclimated to best practices for a learning environment. And that's after 3 months off. So what is it going to be like when kids have not had that sort of structure and that sort of social expectation for 5 months, 6 months, 8 months? What is that going to look like? So I think these are some of the things that, are we even really thinking about this yet? Because we're just trying to figure out how we're going to get to graduation. And so I get it. I mean, I'm not saying that anyone's wrong for thinking about the here and now. You got to fix the problems as they come. But I think we need to have these things on our radar. We need to be thinking about those things. And that's why, counselors are going to become really, counselors are already important. There's no question about that. But like we are going to need to heavily rely on our counselors and really support them in this, because they're going to be leading the way in helping to heal those social breakdowns that we've had.
Yeah, because there's also like the test factor, like the beginning of the school year and stuff like that. Like kids test new teachers to see like what they can get away with, and like there's always those kids, and now they've been gone for so long where they've been playing Fortnite and video games, and maybe they've been logging on doing their work, and then it's a whole nother thing too, is that like right now we're just in survival mode. We are just trying to make sure that they realize that school is still a thing.
Right.
And like our district's mainly just handing out busy work. And then you have like, and then that the whole nother slew of problems of kids who aren't logging on and not doing anything because they think school's over, and then there's kids who are logging on and doing it, and parents are upset because they feel like there's so much work that they got to do, and then there's other parents and other students who are logging on and doing it, and they're upset because this is just busy work. This isn't teaching me anything, So like, I mean, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like,
Right.
I don't know, and then like not that doesn't even say anything about like electives. Electives is a whole nother issue all by itself.
Right. Yeah. So, I think that definitely, if anything, we're just kind of saying out loud what a lot of people are probably already saying, or certainly what a lot of people are already thinking. And I think that's okay. I think where we are right now in this saga, if you will, is figuring out what in the world is happening and figuring out what we don't even know. There's something we say a lot all the time. It's we don't know what we don't know. And I think right now we're really starting to figure out on every level what we don't know. And that's good, because when you figure out what you don't know, then you can start to figure out what to do about it. So, man, I think that's a heavy topic for tonight.
Yeah.
So my encouragement would be to educators to not be afraid to face reality and not be afraid to start planning and making decisions, because you're going to make decisions and they're going to be wrong, but that's better than not making decisions. And so it's important as educators, whether you're at administrative level, you're teaching, you're in a support role, whatever the case may be, you need to embrace the expectation and embrace the freedom to make a decision and follow through to learn from it. And if it doesn't work, then you know what not to do. And I know sometimes that's easier said than done, especially when you're talking about safety and social emotional decisions and things like that. But that's why you surround yourself with lots of support and really smart people and bounce your ideas off one another. And hopefully that's what this program's doing tonight, is helping people to think through some things and think about some situations and some scenarios and start to bounce those ideas off. So,
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, I guess that's it. Join us next time, I guess, for another teacher quarantine talk.
We got to come up with something a little more clever than that, but
We'll,
yeah.
we'll figure it out.
All right. Good night.